finally happening, and you can feel it in places language can't quite reach. There has been a restlessness moving under your days like a quiet tide. Nothing dramatic enough to explain to a stranger, yet too insistent to ignore. The room that once fit you now feels a size too small. The conversations that used to nourish you leave you strangely hungry. The streets you know by heart can't hold the person you are becoming. Something in you keeps whispering that where you are is no longer where you're meant to be. And the whisper is getting louder because God is about to relocate you out of the geography that once grew you and into the landscape where your next assignment can finally breathe. Not someday, not eventually, not after 1,000 conditions line up. Very soon. Before you doubt your own pulse, understand this. Heaven does not move its chosen without purpose. Divine relocation is never random punishment and never escapism dressed in spirituality. God moves you because destiny outgrows geography, because calling requires coordinates, because the people, doors, and influence tied to your next chapter are not standing where your feet currently are. Abraham had to leave what was familiar before promise could unfold. Joseph was carried into a land he did not choose and discovered that what looked like disaster was placement for authority. Ruth crossed a border with nothing but loyalty and found herself written into the lineage of redemption. None of them were shifted for sport. All of them were moved on schedule. And when the time was right, God made it clear. That is what this moment is for you. Clarity. In this season, there are 7 unmistakable signs that appear when heaven is preparing a move. Signals that your current chapter is closing and your new placement is opening. Some of them you are already living. The holy discomfort that won't be soothed by distraction, the way a particular city keeps finding its way into your dreams and searches. The gentle untying of relationships that would anchor you if they stayed as they were. The strange closing of doors you did everything right to open. The confirmations that keep arriving from scripture and unexpected mouths. The unearned peace about a place you haven't even seen. And the timing that starts aligning in ways too kind to be coincidence. These are not mood swings. They are mile markers. When heaven speaks in patterns, you are not guessing. You are being guided. So let's make an agreement before we go further. For the next few minutes, you are allowed to believe what your spirit already knows. You are allowed to lay down the fear that calls safety wisdom, when wisdom is actually obedience. You are allowed to let discomfort do its sacred work, loosening your grip on rooms that have finished teaching you. And you are allowed to admit that the pull you feel toward that specific place is not wanderlust, but assignment. This is not about running from pain. It is about running toward purpose. Here is what you can expect as we walk together. I will name each of the 7 signs with the precision your discernment deserves. Translate what they mean so you do not miss them when they appear in small clothing, and show you exactly how to posture your heart and your calendar so the move does not find you unprepared. I will not flatter you with vague promises or sink you in superstition. I will give you language sturdy enough to stand on and steps gentle enough to take while you are still afraid. And because faith without action is only longing, I will help you turn confirmation into motion without burning bridges or betraying the person you are becoming. If something inside you is already answering yes, if you can feel the quiet quickening that says this word is yours, seal your attention now. Tell your future out loud that you are listening. If you're watching this in a place where you can respond, type a simple "ready," not as a magic trick, but as a declaration that you will not let this moment dissolve back into busyness. Then take one breath deeper than usual and let peace rise to the surface. You are closer than you think. In a heartbeat, we will begin where all wise journeys begin, with purpose. Because once you understand why God relocates His chosen, once you grasp that this shift is not punishment, but placement, you will carry the courage to go when He says move, even if you cannot see the whole road. Before any map unfolds, purpose speaks. That is why the truest relocations never begin with a pin on a chart. They begin with a sentence heaven writes inside your ribs. If you have felt that sentence forming, urgent yet gentle, insistent yet kind, it is because your assignment has grown larger than the room that raised you. Tomorrow is not merely a turn of the page. Tomorrow is the day your life begins to agree with what God has been whispering for a while now. You are not being pushed out, you are being placed. There is a difference. Being pushed out feels like punishment. Being placed feels like precision. And when God places you, He is not reacting to circumstance. He is fulfilling design. Think of how calling behaves over time. In the beginning, calling borrows the furniture of whatever space it can find, jobs that teach you discipline, friendships that teach you courage, communities that teach you how to be seen and stay humble. But calling is alive. It stretches. What covered you yesterday starts to feel tight across the shoulders today. Not because you did anything wrong, but because growth is honest. When heaven plans a fresh assignment, it never asks the old room for permission. It simply begins to grow you beyond it until staying would require you to shrink. That is why the restlessness has not responded to distraction. It is not a mood to manage. It is a message to heed. Tomorrow, let the message stand without apology. You have outgrown the version of life that once fit you, and that is holy. Purpose always precedes place because God anchors people to meaning before He trusts them with movement. If you ran first and asked why later, the new address would only inherit the same ceilings. But when you carry the why into tomorrow, the where serves you instead of swallowing you. The why is simple and strong. There is work with your name on it that cannot be completed where your feet are today. There are people whose answers sound like your voice, but they do not live on your current street. There are doors that swing toward you when you arrive, not before. This is why heaven is gentle yet unyielding right now. Your purpose is time-sensitive, and the future you prayed for has a forwarding address. Notice how love hides inside this design. A lesser love would leave you comfortable and call it kindness. A greater love refuses to let you calcify. That is why tomorrow matters in this story, not as a superstition, but as a mercy. Tomorrow is the doorway where obedience steps into the light. You do not need every detail to cross it. You need agreement. Agreement sounds like this. I will not demonize the room that grew me, but I will not romanticize it either. I will bless the lessons, honor the people, gather the tools, and refuse to make a museum of a season that was always meant to be a school. I will let gratitude be the way I leave and purpose be the way I arrive. You may be tempted to think that the move is about escape, escaping boredom, escaping limits, escaping the ache of being misunderstood. But escape is loud and panicked, and nothing about the way God has been dealing with you carries panic. What you feel is weight, not noise. Placement is quiet like that. It makes you calm even while you pack. It makes you steady even while you say goodbyes. It teaches you to walk away without slamming doors, to carry peace like luggage that never leaves your hand. Tomorrow, carry that peace. Let it settle your breath when uncertainty tries to rise. Let it remind you that obedience is safer than comfort, and arrival is nearer than fear suggests. If you need permission to want what God wants, receive it now. You are allowed to dream in the direction He is drawing you. You are allowed to imagine streets you have not walked and rooms you have not entered and faces you have not yet met. You are allowed to let joy get there before you do. Purpose is not cruel. It does not ask you to live in gray until everything is guaranteed. It asks you to walk with a lamp for your feet instead of a stadium's floodlights, trusting that more ground appears under every faithful step. Tomorrow's grace is sized for tomorrow's obedience. That is enough. So hold this close. You are not losing a home. You are gaining a horizon. You are not abandoning people. You are answering a call that will bless them more from your placement than from your proximity. You are not starting over. You are continuing forward with everything you've earned the hard way. Resilience, discernment, the fluency of prayer, the habit of telling the truth when it would be easier to perform. Purpose asked for those tools. Place will make use of them. And when you arrive, you will recognize the feeling not as novelty, but as recognition. Like stepping into a room you have never seen that somehow already knows your name. If your heart is nodding, let it nod. Tomorrow, say yes to the reason before you ask the route. Say yes to the assignment before you ask the address. Say yes to the God who has never wasted your pain and will not waste your move. Then, when the ground shifts and the first sign appears, you will not scramble for meaning. You will travel with it. And as we turn the page together, we'll begin to name those signs clearly so you can greet them without hesitation when they knock. Tomorrow has a way of telling the truth about today. When God is preparing a move, the first truth arrives as holy discomfort, not as punishment, but as permission to grow. You wake in the room you once called perfect, suddenly feels a size too small. Work that used to light you up now flickers no matter how you angle the lamp. The neighborhood still looks beautiful, but something in its beauty no longer belongs to you in the same way. You try to explain it and hear yourself sounding ungrateful, so you push the feeling down and busy your hands. Yet the ache returns in the quiet. It does not accuse you. It invites you. It whispers that the version of life you built with courage and faith has finished its assignment. And the only way to honor that season is to stop asking it to be a future it was never meant to carry. Tomorrow, let that whisper be loud enough to arrange your day. Let it guide you to pack a mental box, not with regret, but with gratitude for what has been and room for what must become. This discomfort is not the same as a bad week or a difficult month. It does not feed on drama, and it does not ask you to make an enemy of what raised you. It simply removes the illusion that staying still is the same as being safe. You will notice subtle tells. The tasks you can do with excellence no longer ask for your best gifts. The conversations you used to anticipate now arrive without depth. The routines that once kept you strong begin to keep you small. You try to rekindle your joy like a fire that used to leap at the touch of a match, and the flame refuses. That refusal is mercy. It is heaven making it harder for you to be satisfied with less than what has already been written with your name on it. Tomorrow, when the old rhythms reach for you, allow yourself to feel the mismatch without rushing to fix it. Let the gap between who you were and who you are becoming teach you where to step next. At the same time, another current begins to tug at your sleeve. A particular place keeps knocking, quietly, persistently, like a melody you cannot get out of your head. You are not daydreaming about anywhere else. You are drawn toward somewhere specific. Its name shows up on street advertisements and podcast intros, A friend mentions it without knowing your thoughts. You scroll and find yourself researching neighborhoods, maps, markets, schools, faith communities, creative scenes. Dreams visit with scenes that look suspiciously like its streets. And your prayers keep drifting there even when you start them elsewhere. You test yourself to see if this is boredom wearing perfume. But boredom wants novelty, and this pull wants belonging. Boredom asks for an escape. This pull asks for assignment. Boredom is loud. This invitation is steady. Tomorrow, if the city or region rises again in your mind with that same quiet certainty, do not swat it away. Call it what it is. A preview sent ahead to soften your landing when your feet finally arrive. You may notice something almost unreasonable in how your body responds when you picture yourself there. Fear chews on practicalities, yet peace spreads through your chest like warm light. You imagine walking those blocks, finding your table in that cafe, serving those people, building that work, planting in that soil, and the peace deepens instead of thinning. Logic lists what you do not know. Peace reminds you that you will not be going alone. Let that internal climate be your compass. When God speaks of place, He does not only appeal to your mind, He builds a home in your spirit first, so the first day on new ground feels more like recognition than disorientation. That is why the name of the place keeps returning at odd hours, why your searches feel less like curiosity and more like preparation, why the map in your browser feels strangely like a map of your future. If you are tempted to dismiss all this as restlessness, test it gently. Restlessness will accept any destination so long as it is different. Calling is particular. Restlessness grows impatient and demands immediate departure. Calling teaches patience and gathers details without losing momentum. Restlessness seeks relief. Calling seeks fruit. Tomorrow, treat your attention like a stewardship. Give the place 10 unhurried minutes. Read about it with prayer in your posture. Ask, without bargaining, for one more layer of clarity. Pay attention to whether tenderness or tension rises in your chest. Tenderness marks the trail. Do not be surprised if the discomfort and the destination appear in the same hour. One loosens your fingers. The other offers you something worthy to hold. This pairing is heaven's way of keeping you from either clinging to yesterday or leaping toward a vague anywhere. You are not being asked to destroy what you built. You are being asked to stop worshiping it. You are not being asked to gamble. You are being asked to agree. And agreement looks simple tomorrow. Admit that the room is too small. Admit that the pull is real. And let both admissions make you braver than your calendar planned. As the day closes, you may find yourself smiling at nothing in particular. A quiet relief settling in because you finally gave language to what your spirit has known for a while. Carry that relief like a lantern into what comes next, because the story continues with a different kind of evidence. Ties that once held you graciously loosen, and doors that once promised begin to close so better doors can open where you are being sent. Tomorrow will likely speak in gestures rather than grand announcements, and if you listen softly, you will hear love in the way things loosen. The ties that once felt essential begin to slacken without accusation. A friend who used to text first goes quiet, and neither of you is wrong. The standing coffee that anchored your week no longer anchors anything, and no one is to blame. Invitations arrive less often, and when they do, your yes doesn't fit inside them the way it used to. You will be tempted to chase what is fading, to prove you are still who you were in rooms that trained you well. But the mercy of this moment is that God is untying knots you could never cut cleanly on your own. He is letting natural distance do what drama would only complicate, freeing your hands without hardening your heart. Do not confuse this gentle unraveling with failure or coldness. It is possible to bless people you are no longer assigned to walk beside. It is possible to be grateful for what you built together and refuse to make a museum of it. Grief will pass through, as it should. Let it come without narrating it as a sign that you are making a mistake. Tears honor seasons. They do not resurrect them. If you need a sentence to steady your breathing, let it be this: I am not abandoning anyone. I am answering the timing of God. And as you release those threads, pay attention to the new ones forming at the same time, almost shyly. You meet a stranger whose story is somehow already woven into yours. A name you keep seeing online finally becomes a voice note, then a call, then a plan. A mentor appears who happens to live in the very place that keeps calling you, and their guidance feels like a door unlocked from the inside. This is how heaven replants your community before your moving date exists on paper. By introducing you to people who will feel like home when you arrive. Alongside the untying comes a second movement that can sting if you misread it. Doors close where you are despite your excellence. You prepare, you show up, you do everything the right way. And what should have opened does not. Tomorrow, you may hear a polite no to an offer you were sure would turn, or feel a meeting that never quite becomes a meeting, or watch an email thread simply expire. If you let frustration take the microphone, you will accuse yourself of not being enough or accuse others of failing to see you. But if you breathe and look again, you will notice a different pattern. The more decisively a door shuts here, the more sharply your attention turns there. And there, curiously, is where hints of favor begin to gather. An unadvertised opening mentioned in passing, a recommendation that lands in your lap, a property that comes available the week you peek at it, a project in that city that is inexplicably a fit for your voice. The choreography is elegant if you will stop calling it chaos. Think of the closing doors as kind hands turning your shoulders, not as verdicts against your worth. If those doors swung wide right now, they would anchor you in a geography that can no longer host your growth. Refuse to bargain for what would only make obedience harder tomorrow. Release the no without resentment, and in the same breath say yes to the space it creates. When you do, you step out of the exhausting posture of forcing and into the quiet current of guidance. You will know you have shifted when your prayers change from "make this work here" to "show me where my yes belongs." That prayer is a key. It does not bang on doors, it finds the one already open. There is a way to walk through this day that keeps your spirit clean. Answer fading connections with blessing, not blame. Let silence be an ending rather than a courtroom. Return borrowed pieces of yourself and take back the ones you lent too long. Write a note you don't send, if only to untangle your feelings with kindness. And when a door closes, do not knock until your knuckles bleed. Step back. Look to where your peace is facing. Often you will notice a trail you had ignored because you assumed good things must be hard to reach. Ease is not the enemy of destiny. Presumption is. The ease you will feel in the right direction tomorrow is not laziness. It is alignment. If the day presents you with a small decision that symbolizes the shift, declining an invitation that belongs to your yesterday, accepting a call with someone from your tomorrow, let your answer be simple and timely. You do not owe long explanations for obeying God. You owe honesty to your own assignment. And as the sun lowers, you may realize that the world you feared would collapse without you is still standing. And you are still standing too, lighter by the weight of what you no longer have to hold in place. That lightness is not emptiness. It is capacity being created for what is on its way. Tomorrow will not shout, it will echo. And if you listen carefully, you will notice how the same message keeps returning from different directions, like a refrain heaven refuses to let you forget. A verse leaps out during morning prayer and feels stitched to your private thoughts. Later, a friend mentions something that carries the same phrasing you just underlined. A sermon plays in the background, and the speaker uses the very words you whispered to God when no one else was around. You smile at the coincidence until it happens again. Too precise, too gentle, too repeated to be random. That is what divine confirmation sounds like. It is not thunder, it is resonance. It is God using the language of patterns to convince you that you heard Him right. When He wants you to move, He does not leave you to the fragility of one whisper. He layers evidence until faith can see it clearly. The dream you thought was imagination returns, but now with details too vivid to dismiss. The same verse finds you in different books. The same theme, journey, change, new land. Threads through conversations with people who know nothing of your plans. Every separate piece hums at the same frequency, and that hum is heaven's way of saying, yes, it's me. The human mind will fight this rhythm. It will tell you that coincidences happen, that emotion is not evidence, that wisdom waits for certainty. But faith does not need certainty. It needs confirmation, and confirmation comes dressed in repetition. If you hold your heart still, you will feel it. You do not need to chase signs. You only need to notice them. Tomorrow, do not beg for one more miracle to prove what God has already said 3 times. Simply thank Him for repeating Himself long enough for your courage to catch up. Then, something stranger and softer happens. The peace. It does not arrive with trumpets. It drifts in quietly after the noise of doubt has tired itself out. You think of the new city again, the strange neighborhood, the unfamiliar skyline, and logic lists a dozen reasons why this move makes no sense. Yet underneath the reasoning, a stillness hums like a note that never fades. The peace does not negotiate, it simply is. It does not ask you to ignore reality, it redefines it. This peace is not fragile calm or naive optimism. It is strength disguised as stillness. It is the peace that guards your mind when everything around you argues that this can't be right. It is the peace that whispers, you are safe to obey. And it's the same peace that has been appearing each time you imagine the new place. Not because you figured everything out, but because God has gone ahead of you to prepare it. Tomorrow, when that peace returns, treat it like a compass rather than a comfort. Let it decide where you look, what you research, which conversations you keep, and which ones you release. If you want to test whether the feeling is real, watch how it behaves under pressure. Fear trembles when questioned. Divine peace deepens. Fear demands a timeline. Divine peace trusts one already exists. Fear tries to calculate. Peace rests. And as you rest in it, you'll notice how effortlessly timing begins to align around you. The exact job, the right contact, the surprising provision, all arriving with a precision no spreadsheet could plan. That's when you'll know peace is not passive. It's architectural. It builds the bridge beneath your feet as you walk. Do not apologize for how calm you feel about something that makes no sense. That calm is your inheritance. It's what tells you that obedience is not reckless, that surrender is not foolish, that the unknown is not empty, but already occupied by grace. Tomorrow, let the peace lead, even when the map is incomplete. Because peace does not promise ease, it promises presence. Tomorrow does not arrive by accident. It is composed. Every small event, every delay, every coincidence, has been tuned to a rhythm you could not hear until now. When God decides to move you, He does not improvise. He arranges. You begin to notice it in whispers first. Your lease ending exactly when you started feeling confined, a contract wrapping up at the very moment your interest begins to fade, unexpected provision showing up right when your plans required it. You tell yourself it's lucky timing, but luck is too clumsy a word for something this deliberate. The pattern is too symmetrical, the timing too precise. It's choreography, not coincidence. God times His movements like a conductor, ensuring that every instrument in your life, the people, the places, the opportunities, plays its note at the right measure. He removes the obstacle just as your courage matures to step forward. He introduces a new connection just when you've released the old one. He opens a door the same week you finally stop pounding on the wrong one. Tomorrow, when something that felt delayed suddenly falls perfectly into place, don't call it timing. Call it mercy in motion. This is what divine alignment looks like. The quiet synchronization of heaven's calendar with your readiness. Nothing wasted, nothing random. Every unanswered prayer, every postponed dream, every not yet was a part of this design. You needed time to grow into the version of yourself that could survive and succeed in the place He is sending you. And now that version is ready. You can feel it in how peace stays when before it used to leave, how fear still speaks but no longer commands, how the unknown looks less like a threat and more like an invitation. You see, God never rushes His children, but He also never wastes His timing. When everything begins aligning, the right words from unexpected mouths, the right opportunities at the right hour, the right resources exactly when you need them, it's because heaven has decided that waiting is over. Timing is divine language. It says, now. It doesn't yell or plead. It simply arranges reality until obedience is the only response that makes sense. And when that moment comes, when all the threads pull together and the way forward clears, your only task is to move without hesitation. You won't need to strategize or force it. The doors will open smoothly, and the provision will appear almost theatrically precise. You'll look back and realize that every setback was a setup. Every closed door was direction. Every detour was design. The very things that frustrated you were the tools of your alignment. God has been orchestrating not just your move, but your maturity. Tomorrow, as these alignments start unfolding, resist the urge to explain them away. Do not call the supernatural ordinary just because it looks calm. The divine rarely announces itself with spectacle. It moves with elegance. It reveals itself through timing too perfect to be planned. And when it does, you will know it's not a coincidence that the resources arrived, that the message was delivered, that the meeting happened, that the path cleared. It was all authored in advance by the one who moves mountains and calendars alike. You don't have to manipulate outcomes when the composer of time is conducting the score. Your role is to listen, to recognize the downbeat, and to move when He signals the next measure. There's no need to push the tempo or stall the rhythm. Just trust that you are stepping into a perfectly timed masterpiece. And as timing aligns, courage must align with it. Because the next step is not about seeing everything, it's about moving anyway. Tomorrow's choreography is already unfolding, and faith is your cue to join the dance. Stand here with me one breath before tomorrow, and notice how the atmosphere has shifted. What once felt like restlessness now feels like direction. The place that kept tugging at your thoughts no longer looks like an escape. Looks like a calling with a street address. The soft loosening of old ties is not a verdict against the past. It is love making new room inside you. The doors that refuse to budge where you are did not arrive to insult your worth. They arrived to point your feet, the confirmations that circled you, scripture in your morning, phrases in friendly conversations, messages that seemed written with your name, were not accidents. They were careful stitches sewing your courage together. And the peace that settled without your permission was not denial. It was the evidence that presence had already gone ahead of you to prepare what you will soon walk into. Tomorrow does not demand a show. It asks for agreement. Steady, quiet, dignified agreement. Agreement is the way a heart says yes without wasting strength on explanations. It is how you leave with gratitude and arrive with humility. It is the difference between dragging the past behind you and carrying it as wisdom. You do not need to argue your obedience into being. You only need to enact it. The proof will be in your steps, not in your speeches. Let your goodbye be clean and kind. Bless the people and places that formed you by refusing to make a museum out of them. Gather the tools you earned the hard way. Your discipline in lean seasons, your gentleness in truth-telling, your habit of hearing God in quiet rooms, and pack them like essentials that never leave your hand. If tears come, honor them. They do not mean you are wrong. They mean you loved well. Then turn toward what waits and allow peace, not panic, to set your pace. You will feel the difference immediately. Effort will still be required, but it will no longer feel like pleading. It will feel like partnership. There will be a particular moment when you sense the handle of the next door beneath your palm. Old reflexes may ask for one more sign or one more day. Breathe, remember the pattern, and move. Not with bravado, not with apology, simply with the poise of someone who kept listening long enough to recognize their name when it was called. On the other side, ordinary things will begin speaking your language again. Work that fits your shoulders, conversations that add light instead of weight, streets that welcome your footsteps like they were expecting them. Placement does that. It turns surviving into building and turns striving into flow. If this word has been yours all along, mark it before you sleep. Say, even softly, that you will notice tomorrow. You will honor what you receive. You will act without theatrics, and you will protect your peace while you move. Write ready where your eyes can find it in the morning. Keep this channel close, subscribe, and turn on reminders so we can walk the first days of arrival together and make sure nothing heaven arranged slips through your fingers. This isn't a transaction. It is a way to stay awake to the story you were made to carry. Tomorrow will knock. When it does, don't rush and don't hide. Open the door, cross the threshold, and breathe. You are not abandoning your life, you are entering it. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. Until we meet again, take care, stay ready, and I'll see you on the other side of the door.